Racism is a sad truth. It exists almost everywhere, and it affects the way that people see things. This is a topic that is always learned, but never really prepared for. I will be answering the following questions: how racism affects the victims, how racism affects the community, how racism affects the offender, how the law protects, and how to prevent it. To better explain in my presentation, I'll be using the article How Racism Harms Children in order to explain to you guys the difficulties of dealing with racism. Today, I will be talking about racism. From my first point of view, I'll be explaining to you guys the negative effects of racism. From my second point of view, I'll be explaining to you guys the laws that are already set in place today. And from my third point of view, I'll be explaining to you guys why I think there should be a new law in order to enforce more severe penalties for people that like to say, post, or make videos online and using racial slurs to offend people. From my first point of view, I'll be explaining to you guys the negative effects of dealing with people's racist behavior. Claire McCarthy, MD, Senior Faculty Editor at Harvard Health Publishing, has an article where she explains the many effects of racism here in the United States. In this article, I read a lot of how kids, pregnant mothers, and just several people who are of different race get treated every single day in United States because of their race. And these things cause things like chronic stress. It causes depression, and it affects many people in several different negative ways, and this has to stop. I am honestly very glad to have found this information in order to have a deeper look at exactly how people of different race often get mistreated because of where they come from. And this goes to show that my goal of making a new law would definitely help out those that need it. And now that we have talked about the negatives, let's go on and look at the laws that are already set in place. And for my second point, there are already laws that are set in place in order to penalize those who decide to be racist towards one another. The website Racism, It Stops With Me posted an article named What Does the Law Say?, which deeply explains all that is covered under the Racial Discrimination Act. The Racial Discrimination Act that was placed on 1975 was basically a law that made it unlawful for a person to offend, insult, humiliate, or intimidate a person just because they have a different race. And also it allowed people of different race to have employment, housing, or anything and everything that they set their mind to. And to go back to my goal of making a new law, this definitely explains why we should penalize people a lot greater than they already are. Now that we have talked about the negatives and the laws that are set in place, let's go ahead and talk about the new law that we should make. In my opinion, we need a new law that punishes people more severely for practicing racism. Nowadays, there are new ways to be racist, and one of the main common ways that people are being racist nowadays is through online. Cyber Racism is an article that explains the issues with online racist websites and comments. Cyber Racism is an article that explains how hard it is to give any sort of consequence to those who use racist slurs. All they can do is take it down or just delete the page from being viewed. But after that, there's not much that we can do. My main goal for this video was to show you guys why we need a new law in order to penalize those more severely that practice racism. Racism is not funny, and just because it's not in person doesn't mean it hurts any less. Racism has to stop. So today we spoke about racism. From our first point of view, we spoke about the negatives. From my second, we spoke about the laws that are already set in place. And from my third point of view, we discussed on the new law that should be made. My goal is strongly to make a new law to penalize those who are practicing racism to hurt others. I think there should be a stronger method of penalty. I think more people online should be penalized. And I think those big corporations should be taking a closer look at what people post. And there has to be a way to penalize people, whether by ticket or jail time or warnings or whatever. But this has to stop. In conclusion, we have seen the negative effects as well as the law set in place, as well as the new law that I want to proceed with. With this new strict law, we are able to control more negative racial slurs from being out there to hurt others. And to finally end this presentation, I'd like to say that the law that I am proposing could revolutionize the way that people are receiving treatment around the world. Thank you. Have a good day.